Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro Moros announced that if the opposition were to have a major victory in the upcoming National Assembly elections, he will present his resignation to the presidency of Venezuela. The number of people being treated in U.S. hospitals for COVID-19 topped 100,000 for the first time on Wednesday. The European Union has urged the Ethiopian government to restore communications in its northern Tigray region and call on both sides to cease the hostilities. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro Moros announced that if the opposition were to have a major victory in the upcoming National Assembly elections, he will present his resignation to the presidency of Venezuela.
After I heard the debate and all the declaration of the deputies for the National Assembly, and they mentioned several times Maduro here and there, I wondered if there was an election for the National Assembly or the presidency. And I heard, let's vote to remove Maduro. And I said, it's okay if it isn't a national election as happens in other countries. I told to the people it's okay. And if you vote and the opposition has one vote more, I leave the Miraflores Palace. I dismiss.
President Maduro also called on the opposition to maintain the spirit of national dialogue.
It is a country that deserves answers, solutions, that requires a new stage of dialogue understanding. I have been asked if going to a dialogue in the new assembly could mean a co-government with the opposition sectors of the opposition, and you know that I have said to me, I would like to incorporate proposals of them.
In the framework of the upcoming parliamentary elections in Venezuela, the act to officially install the national and international observation missions took place in the National Electoral Council Strategic Operations Center. The president of the National Electoral Council, Indira Alfonso, opened the event to welcome the group of accredited observers to the parliamentary elections. The delegations include academics, activists, and political personalities, such as the former president of Ecuador, Rafael Correa. The Council President emphasized during her speech that the spaces of the electoral power will be at the disposition of all observers throughout the electoral process and until the release of the results. And the former president of Ecuador, Rafael Correa, in Venezuela to observe the December 6 parliamentary elections, offered his views, having participated in the meeting with the president of the National Electoral Council.
To have a meeting, even if a little long, with the president of the National Electoral Council, we really are impressed by how much has been done in so little time. And despite the boycott by some extreme sectors of the national opposition, and obviously the international boycott, the challenge is truly immense, but also immense is the will of the Venezuelan people to ensure respect for their sovereignty and democracy.
In Chile, the lower house approved the project presented by President Sebastián Piñera for a second withdrawal of 10% of the pension fund that will replace the proposal presented by the opposition parties and qualified by the experts as most beneficial for Chileans. The Chamber of Deputies approved the executive draft with 131 votes in favor, 12 against, and 2 abstentions. After the bill's approval, another process still remains before the Senate, as there is an apparent similarity of the President Piñera's project with the proposal made by opposition parties. Social movements warn about the differences that will punish pensioners and active workers with the law. In Peru, Prime Minister Violeta Bermúdez, accompanied by her cabinet, appeared before Congress seeking the support of the parliamentarians in vote for confidence to allow her to implement their work plan.
The prosecutor on duty has not been allowed to go where the body is. In order to carry out the corresponding investigation, we have information that he is currently returning to the area with the police personnel, and we hope that he will be able to fulfill his role in order to determine the corresponding responsibility. We know that the violent acts in protest continue, thus a dialogue is essential. That is why we invoke the dialogue with demonstrators. The regional government has now requested an emergency meeting by the members of the Agency of Management for the Prevention of Social Conflict in order to enable the authorities in the region to determine the best way to influence a dialogue and establish some coordination so that there are no further incidents affecting the Department of La Libertad.
More than a year after the coup in Bolivia, former President Evo Morales returned to the Department of La Paz this Thursday. The former president was received in the city of El Alto by members of the Movement Towards Socialism Party and by various social organizations.
The coup has not only been against Evo, not only against the social movements, but it has been against our economic program, our economic policies, our plans for the national economy. And in summary, where does that plan come from? From the professional, middle-class mining workers, the indigenous, campesinos movement, on which that economic plan is based, on the nationalization or recovery of natural resources.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The number of people being treated in U.S. hospitals for COVID-19 topped 100,000 for the first time on Wednesday, compared to the 60,000 registered during the peaks of April and July, according to the organization COVID Monitoring Project. Winter will be critical in the United States, where the epidemic remains out of control and could still kill more than 150,000 people between December and February. More than 2,000 people have died daily in recent days, bringing the official death toll to more than 273,000. In the United States, wildfires in El Cajon, California continue and threatened structures during Wednesday, also in Wednesday night, and according to Orange County Sheriff, estimated 25,000 residents were evacuated from the area by Thursday afternoon. Orange County Fire Authority's Captain Paul Holliday said this blaze will surely burn throughout the weekend. Meanwhile, the bonfire in Santiago Cañón in Orange County had spread to about 7,200 acres with 0% containment by Thursday, while other fires burned in Riverside County requiring evacuations. With strong winds forecast to last throughout the day, fire dangers remain critical to extremely critical, the two highest categories on the threat scale. U.S. President Donald Trump refused to say on Thursday whether he has confidence on Attorney General Bill Barr, who has publicly contradicted his claims that the November 3rd election was marred by fraud. Speaking to reporters at the White House, Trump responded, "Ask me that in a number of weeks from now." When asked if he retains confidence in Barr, who has been considered a loyalist to the president. In an interview earlier this week, Barr said that the Justice Department has not found any evidence of significant voter fraud in the presidential election won by Democrat Joe Biden. Barr's comments confirmed the conclusions of the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. intelligence, and independent poll watchers that the 2020 election was, in the language of government officials, the most secure in American history. And a special two-day session of the UN General Assembly in response to the coronavirus pandemic and the global challenges it poses is set to continue this Friday. The virtual meeting is being attended by world leaders, heads of UN agencies, and international experts who are set to discuss an urgent agenda for the pandemic and evaluate mechanisms for dealing with the virus. Leaders are to debate the intention to increase international cooperation and provide aid to the most affected countries. The multilateral body considers that the international community can address adversities through collective actions that facilitate economic recovery and health. And during the UN General Assembly special session, Mexico's Foreign Secretary Marcelo Ebrard called for multilateralism and cooperation to solve the problems caused by the COVID-19 pandemic.
It will be critical, as it has been so far, the participation of the United Nations, and that we can coordinate efforts at the global level. There are many imperatives for tensions due to economic competition or political reasons, but undoubtedly, overcoming the pandemic and what will follow it will require great global coordination, a strengthening of multilateralism, and the limitation on looking after our own interests, which is sometimes claimed to be easy, but it is difficult with the public pressure for vaccines or treatments, not just thinking about each country.
And during his speech addressing the UN General Assembly special session, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi urged to eliminate all forms of unilateral sanctions so that countries can deal with the pandemic.
We must promote an international environment favorable to the fight against the pandemic. The conflict parties should respond to Secretary General Antonio Guterres' ceasefire call and focus on fighting the virus. It is important to listen to the call of the international community and to eliminate any form of unilateral sanctions or coercion.
And Italy recorded its highest daily death toll from the novel coronavirus this Thursday, with 993 fatalities confirmed in the last 24 hours, despite a downward trend in infection rates. The previous grim record of 969 deaths was set on March 27th, when Italy was under national lockdown after becoming the first European country to be hit by the global pandemic. The country's COVID-19 death toll now stands at over 58,000. The daily number of deaths reported had been below 800 for the past 5 days, while the number of new infections is falling. The health ministry reported over 23,000 new cases on Thursday, compared to almost 41,000 on November 13. The number of people currently infected has also been falling since the end of November. The director of the Coordination Center for Health Alerts and Emergencies at the Spanish Ministry of Health has stressed that Spain should not relax the measures put in place to halt the spread of the coronavirus, as the country's ICUs are still under pressure.
We are in a clear period of decline. We are already going through several weeks, almost 4 weeks of continuous decline, but 240 per 100,000 is still a very important rate. It is still a much higher incidence than we would like to have. The cases still occupy a fourth of capacity. 1 out of every 4 cases admitted to an ICU is a patient admitted for coronavirus. A single disease is occupying 1 of every 4 ICU places available in our country. And the level of hospital occupancy in conventional acute beds, 1 in 10 is occupied by coronavirus, by a single disease.
French President Emmanuel Macron announced the country will pay tribute to former President Valéry Giscard d'Estaing with a national day of mourning on Wednesday, December the 9th. Tributes poured in Thursday after the death of the former French president from COVID-19 at the age of 94, with French and European leaders hailing him as an ambitious reformer and great statesman. Giscard, who has been suffering from heart problems, died on Wednesday at his family's estate. He governed from a single 7-year term from 1974 to 1981, when France made great strides in nuclear power, high-speed train travel, and legalized abortion. And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The European Union's Crisis Management Commissioner this Thursday urged the Ethiopian government to restore communications in its northern Tigray region and called on both sides to cease the hostilities. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed last month ordered military operations against the northern region's ruling party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, in response to what he said were attacks on federal army camps. Tens of thousands of refugees have since poured into eastern Sudan, with many complaining that they have not been able to re-establish contact with those left behind or lost in the scramble to leave due to a communications blackout.
I urged again the Ethiopian authorities to lift the communication blockade, to provide access to humanitarian workers and for humanitarian goods, and of course to cease hostilities. This has been going on for too long. Military solution is not going to be a solution. There will be no military solution to this issue, which is primarily a political one. So I call upon the Ethiopian authorities and all others involved, to stop violence.
Okay.
The Central African Republic's top court rejected former President Francois Bozize's candidacy in the forthcoming elections because he is being sought for alleged murder and torture and also is under UN sanctions. The ruling was handed down by the Constitutional Court, which also rejected 3 other candidacies for the December 27th vote. Bozize was overthrown in 2013, marked the start of the country's descent into conflict, has been seen an only major rival to incumbent President Faustin Archange Touadera. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced new localized restrictions to stem a resurgence of COVID-19 in the south of the country, amid growing fears that new infections could spiral into a second wave.
Only prevent a second wave if all of us respect the rules, the measures, and the protocols that have been put in place for the protection of everyone. Now, following a recommendation of the National Coronavirus Command Council, and after consultation with premiers, metro mayors, and traditional leaders, Cabinet has decided to declare the Nelson Mandela Bay Metropolitan Municipality as a coronavirus hotspot. We must remember that as much as we want to relax, this virus does not relax. And this virus does not take a holiday.
Geopolitics expert Miguel Jaimes highlighted the importance of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, working to stabilize the market and oil production in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic.
This is very important because they want to stop the production increase, a production increase that was scheduled even in this year of pandemic 2020. But the organization must necessarily establish a rule, a minimum quota of $50 per barrel. Otherwise, it would pose many problems, as it is happening to the Texas bills today. The small oil-producing families, which cannot endure a sinking oil price, but neither can they endure overproduction, increased demand based on non-existent, superficial, digitally created market, which is attacking this organization.
Hungary's authorities vowed Thursday to uphold their veto on the European Union's next budget and massive pandemic relief fund, saying a mechanism that ties payment of funds to rule of law principles risks the derailing of the bloc.
We cannot accept the budget in this form. All EU member states have the right to veto. When we talk about the rule of law, we can say that our veto would be any kind of revenge or extortion. Hungary, Poland and all member states have the right to veto. If so far no solution has been found that is acceptable to all, then further negotiations are needed. We are open to further discussions and we believe that a solution could be found, but the current draft is not the acceptable. Therefore, we can safely say that there will be no agreement based on the current draft.
4 people died on Thursday when a chemical tank exploded at a wastewater treatment plant near Bristol in Western England. Emergency services were called after reports of an explosion at Wessex Water's Bristol Water Recycling Centre in Avonmouth at around 11:20 a.m. local time. According to local police, 3 Wessex Water employees and 1 contractor died in the blast, and a 5th person was injured, but their injuries were not thought to be life-threatening. A witness said there was a helicopter looking for missing people and that police closed a nearby road leading up to the plant. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also, if you feel so inclined, please follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.